Go ahead, Vimal Prabhu.
जी प्रभु। ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुभ्ये नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपं कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वयं पदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयदपत्कमलं श्रीगौरं वैष्णवं च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगुण रघुनान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्ण चैतन्य देवं श्री राधा कृष्ण पादान सहगुणा ललिता श्री विशाखान्तां तां सा। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपीशा गोपेश राधा कांता नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी विश्वानुसुत देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरोधस्य कृपा सिन्धुजैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरी भक्तवृंदा। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 रामा राम राम हरे हरे। ओम भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम भगवते वासुदेवाय। जय श्री कृष्णा। थैंक यू प्रभु जी।
Hare Krishna, super excellent. So, quick announcement before we continue. For getting class recordings for this batch 3 and 4, please get it from Sumnima. You have the number on the screen. And I will also paste our number in the chat. So Sumnima is from Nepal, and she has very nice service attitude and does lots of services at the local Nepal temple as well as for our batches. So she sends maintains these recordings for various batches. So she maintains for batch number 5 and 6 and 7, and now for batch 3 and 4 also. And she is very diligent, except for that time difference. Say those of you who are in North America and she being in Nepal. So except for that time difference, otherwise Sumnima is very diligent in responding to your request for class recording. So from go forward for this batch and 4 from today onwards. By all means, you can get the recording from me. Say it's a daytime here in North America, will be nighttime in Nepal, and you need the recording now. You can get it from me. But otherwise, try to get it from Sumnima, and we'll go from there. Sumnima has been great help for all our batches. He also manages the Zoom controls for various classes and gives me breathing space to, say, get a glass of water because classes run back to back. So take a snapshot, or you have it in the chat also, copy the number. Introduce yourself to Sumnima, and she will respond to you right away. All right. So today we will be revising Bhagavad Gita chapters 3 and 4. I will give a little bit overview for chapter 3, and then we'll read the translations for chapter 3. And then Vimal Prabhu will do the presentation for chapter 3, and then I will also do presentation for chapter 3, and then we'll follow the same process for chapter 4. I request permission and blessings from all devotees. Guru Maharaj, His Grace Vaisheshwara Satikari, our dear Srila Prabhupada, Sri Radha Krishna, to be able to speak on Bhagavad Gita. So you have on the screen a short yoga ladder chart that it starts from the bottom of animal life, and then one tries to progress up and up. So you go to Karma Kanda, then to Karma Yoga, either Sakam Karma Yoga or Nishkam Karma Yoga, then Gyan Yoga, then Ashtanga Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga. Gyan Yoga is the only level or the only path where there is no activity. And Arjuna is going to try to use this no activity of Gyan Yoga to get out of war, because nobody likes to kill loving relatives. So Arjuna got confused in Bhagavad Gita 2.49, where Krishna said, Durena hi avram karma. So Krishna is saying, give up abominable activity. And the second line of 2.49 also gives confusion. So Krishna is calling karma kanda as abominable and to give up karma kanda. But Arjuna is thinking that war is abominable. And then 2.49, the second line says Buddhi Yoga Dhananjaya, means to practice Karma Yoga, which is the same as Bhakti Yoga, which is the same as Buddhi Yoga. So Krishna is saying Buddhi Yoga to mean Bhakti Yoga, and the Karma Yoga to be at the highest level of serving Krishna. Hence it becomes Bhakti Yoga. But Arjuna is thinking Buddhi Yoga to be Jnana Yoga. So the 2.49 confuses Arjuna. Therefore, it leads to his inquiry at the start of chapter 3. So Arjuna's options are based on the misunderstanding of 2.49. That option A is that he follows Gyan Yoga, means inactivity, means renunciation. Oh, that is Buddhi. Or Arjuna's second option is to do Karma Yoga, means activity, means fighting, means vikarma. So all this is his misunderstanding. And therefore Arjuna asks this inquiry at the start of chapter 3. Arjuna says, why do you want me to do Karma Yoga, means fight, means abominable activity, if Gyan Yoga, which is renouncing, and Buddhi is higher on the yoga ladder? So you can see that on the yoga ladder, Gyan Yoga is higher than Karma Yoga. Now, this Karma Yoga is not at the highest level. This Karma Yoga is normal karma that we do. But Krishna is asking Arjuna to do Karma Yoga of fighting to serve Krishna. Hence, Arjuna's Karma Yoga becomes Bhakti Yoga. And in chapter 2, the words Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and Buddhi Yoga are used interchangeably, have all three to refer to Bhakti Yoga, the highest level on the yoga ladder. Now, chapter 2 was in sequence. That first Arjuna gives the fifth reason, indecision, as the fifth reason to not fight the war, and then surrenders to Krishna. Then section 2, Krishna gives Atma Gyan, that you are not this body, you are soul. Then section 3 is Karma Kanda, that if you want to enjoy, then Karma Kanda is your best option. Then section 4 is Nishkam Karma Yoga. And section 5 is about Sthita Prajna, one who is elevated on the path of spirituality. But chapter 3 goes in circles. So Arjuna is trying to get out of the war. So Arjuna first says, I am not qualified for Karma Yoga. And Krishna responds, okay, if you're not qualified for Karma Yoga, then perform Karma Kanda, because Karma Kanda also involves doing your duty, means Arjuna should fight. Then Arjuna says, no, Krishna, you don't understand. I am actually overqualified for Karma Yoga. I am actually qualified for Gyan Yoga, so I should just renounce and go to the forest. Krishna says, very good, even if you are qualified for Gyan Yoga, come down to Karma Yoga level to set an example for others, means do your duty, means Arjuna should fight. So you see, it already goes in circles. And then Arjuna asks the question that if I follow Karma Yoga, Will I get liberation? And Krishna says yes, and Krishna gives example. And the last part of chapter 3 is Arjuna asks a question that, okay, I want to follow Karma Yoga, but what drags me away as if by force? And Krishna says it is eternal enemy lust only that drags one away. So chapter 3 sections are laid out in the same format. So chapter 3 is divided in 4 sections. Section 1 is verses 1 to 9, renunciation of work or work in devotion. Section 2 is verses 10 to 16, from Karma Kanda to Karma Yoga. That if you are not qualified for Karma Yoga, then practice Karma Kanda. Section 3 is divided into 3 subsections. Section 3, subsection 1 is verses 17 to 24. Karma Yoga, perform prescribed work with detachment to set an example for others. And subsection 2 is verses 25 to 29. Differences between Karma Yoga and Karma Kanda. So Krishna does a comparison between Karma Kanda and Karma Yoga to establish that Arjuna should perform Karma Yoga. And subsection 3 is verses 30 to 35, description of how Karma Yoga elevates. And section 4 is verses 36 to 43, that beware of lust and anger. Overcome lust, the main obstacle on the path of Karma Yoga. So we will now start reading translations for chapter 3. Is our dear Devraj able to read chapter 3 verses 1 to 9 translations?
No, Prabhuji, I'll read.
Okay.
Hare Krishna, everyone. Chapter 3, Karma Yoga. Verse 1, Arjuna said, O Janardhana, O Keshava, why do you want me to engage me in this ghastly warfare? If you think that intelligence is better than fruitive work. Verse 2, my intelligence is bewildered by your equivocal instruction. Therefore, please tell me decisively which will be most beneficial for me. Verse 3, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, O sinless Arjuna, I have already explained that there are 2 classes of men who try to realize the self. Some are inclined to understand it by empirical, philosophical speculation, and other by devotional service. Verse 4, not by merely abstaining from work can one achieve freedom from reaction, nor by renunciation alone can one attain perfection. Verse 5, everyone is forced to act helplessly according to the qualities he has acquired from the mode of material nature. Therefore, no one can refrain from doing something, not even for a moment. Verse 6, one who restrains the senses of action but whose mind is dwell on the sense object certainly dilutes himself and is called a pretender. Verse 7, on the other hand, if a sincere person try to control the activity senses by the mind and begin karma yoga in a Krishna consciousness without attachment, he is by far superior. Verse 8, perform your prescribed duty, for doing so it better than not working. One cannot even maintain one physical body without work. Verse 9, work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed. Otherwise, work causes bondage in this material world. Therefore, O son of Kunti, perform your prescribed duty for his satisfaction. And in that way, you will always remain free from the bondage.
Very good. Ramya, are you able to read verses 10 to 16 translation? So this is section 2 from Karma Kanda to Karma Yoga.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, verse 10. In the beginning of creation, the Lord of all creatures sent forth generations of men and demigods along with sacrifices for Vishnu and blessed them by saying, "Be thou happy by this yajna, sacrifice, because its performance will bestow upon you everything desirable for living happily and achieving liberation." Verse 11. The demigods, being pleased by sacrifices, will also please you, and thus, by cooperation between men and demigods, prosperity will reign for all. Verse 12. In charge of the various necessities of life, the demigods, being satisfied by the performance of the yajna, sacrifice, will supply all necessities to you. But he who enjoys such gifts without offering them to the demigods in return is certainly a thief. Verse 13. The devotees of the Lord are released from all kinds of sins because they eat food which is offered first for sacrifice. Others who prepare food for personal sense enjoyment rarely eat only sin. Verse 14. All living bodies subsist on food grains, which are produced from rain. Rains are produced by performance of yajna, sacrifice, and yajna is born of prescribed duties. Verse 15. Regulated activities are prescribed in the Vedas, and the Vedas are directly manifested from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Consequently, the all-pervading transcendence is eternally situated in acts of sacrifice. Verse 16. My dear Arjuna, one who does not follow in human life the cycle of sacrifice thus established by the Vedas certainly leads a life full of sin. Living only for the satisfaction of the senses, such a person lives in vain.
Dhara will read section 3, first subsection, verses 17 to 24. Title is Karma Yoga, perform prescribed work with detachment to set an example.
Hare Krishna. Text 17. But for one who takes pleasure in the self, whose human life is one of self-realization, and who is satisfied in the self only, fully satiated, for him there is no duty. Text 18. A self-realized man has no purpose to fulfill in the discharge of his prescribed duties, nor has he any reason not to perform such work, nor has he any need to depend on any other living being. Text 19. Therefore, without being attached to the fruits of activities, one should act as a matter of duty, for by working without attachment, one attains the supreme. Text 20. Kings of such as Janak attained perfection solely by performance of prescribed duties. Therefore, just for the sake of educating the people in general, you should perform your work. Text 21. Whatever action a great man performs, common men follow, and whatever standards he sets by exemplary acts, all the world pursues. Text 22. O son of Pritha, there is no work prescribed for me within all the three planetary systems, nor am I in want of anything, nor have I a need to obtain anything, and yet I am engaged in prescribed duties. Text 23. For if I ever failed to engage in carefully performing prescribed duties, O Parth, certainly all men would follow my path. Text 24. If I did not perform prescribed duties, all these worlds would be put to ruination. I would be the cause of creating unwanted population, and I would thereby destroy the peace of all living beings.
Malti will read section 3, subsection 2, verses 25 to 29, differences between Karma Yoga and Karma Kanda. Malti, 25 to 29. Ritu, 25 to 29.
Hare Krishna, text 25. As the ignorant perform their duties with attachment to results, the learned may similarly act, but without attachment, for the sake of leading people on the right path. Text 26. So as not to disrupt the minds of ignorant men attached to the fruitive results of prescribed duties, a learned person should not induce them to stop work. Rather, by working in the spirit of devotion, he should engage them in all sorts of activities for the gradual development of Krishna consciousness. Text 27. The spirit soul, bewildered by the influence of false ego, thinks himself the doer of activities that are in actuality carried out by the three modes of material nature. Text 28. One who is in knowledge of the absolute truth, O mighty armed, does not engage himself in the senses and sense gratification, knowing well the differences between work in devotion and work for fruitive results. Text 29. Bewildered by the modes of material nature, the ignorant fully engage themselves in material activities and become attached. But the wise should not unsettle them, although these duties are inferior due to the performer's lack of knowledge. Hare Krishna.
All right. Divya will read section 3, subsection 3, verses 30 to 35. Title is Description of How Karma Yoga Elevates.
Hare Krishna. Text 30.
Loudly.
Text 30. Therefore, O Arjuna, surrendering all your works unto me with full knowledge of me, without desires for profit, with no claims to proprietorship, and free from lethargy, fight. Text 31. Those persons who execute their duties according to my injunctions and who follow this teaching faithfully without envy become free from the bondage of fruitive actions. Text 32. But those who, out of envy, disregard these teachings and do not follow them regularly are to be considered bereft of all knowledge, befooled, and ruined in their endeavors for perfection. Text 33. Even a man of knowledge acts according to his own nature, for everyone follows the nature he has acquired from the three modes. What can repression accomplish? Text 34. There are principles to regulate attachment and aversion pertaining to the senses and their objects. One should not come under the control of such attachment and aversion because they are stumbling blocks on the path of self-realization. Text 35. It is far better to discharge one's prescribed duties, even though faultily, than another's duties perfectly. Destruction in the course of performing one's own duty is better than engaging in another's duties, for to follow another's path is dangerous.
Matan Prabhu will read last set of verses. So section 4 is verses 36 to 43. Beware of lust and anger. Overcome lust, the main obstacle on the path of Karma Yoga. Matan Prabhu, 36 to 43.
Hare Krishna. 36. Arjuna said, O descendant of Brahmani, what is one impulse to sinful acts, even unwillingly, as if engaged by force? Text 37. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, it is lust only, Arjuna, which is born of contact with the material motor passion and later transformed into wrath, and which is all the devouring sinful enemy of this world. Text 38. As fire is covered by smoke, as a mirror is covered by dust, or as the embryo is covered by the womb, the living entity is similarly covered by a different degree of this lust. Text 39. Thus the wise living entity's pure consciousness becomes covered by his eternal enemy in the form of lust, which is never satisfied and which burns like fire. Text 40. The senses, the mind, and the intelligence are the sitting places of this lust. Through them, lust covers the real knowledge of the living entity and bewilders him. Text 41. Therefore, O Arjuna, best of the Bharatas, in the very beginning, curb this great symbol of sin, lust, by regulating the senses, and slay this destroyer of knowledge and self-realization. Text 42. The working senses are superior to dull matter. Mind is higher than the senses. Intelligence is still higher than the mind, and he, the soul, is even higher than the intelligence. Text 43. Thus, knowing oneself to be transcendental to the material senses, mind, and intelligence, O mighty armed Arjuna, one should study the mind by deliberate spiritual intelligence, Krishna consciousness, and thus, by spiritual strength, conquer this insatiable enemy known as lust. Hare Krishna.
Very good. Vimal Prabhu, go ahead with your presentation. Again, we cannot hear you.
Krishna, everyone. Prabhu, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Hare Krishna, everyone. I'm going to present Srimad Bhagavat, chapter 3. I'm requesting the permission and blessing of all devotees, Srila Prabhupada, and all gurus in the disciple succession, and Shri Radha Krishna. Please forgive me for the shortcomings. In chapter 3, the in the Bhagavad Gita, Karma Yoga, Arjun talked to Lord Krishna about his confusion regarding his duty as a warrior. He asked Krishna why he should fight in a war if knowledge is more important than action. In response, Sri Krishna explained the importance of performing one's duty without being attached to the result. Krishna tells Arjuna that two types of people seek to understand themselves: those who study philosophy and those who engage in devotional practices. Krishna stresses that simply avoiding work or giving up on one's duty won't lead to freedom. Instead, everyone must act according to their nature. People cannot avoid action even for a moment. Krishna warns that someone who restricts their actions but continue to think about desires is fooling themselves. A true person practicing yoga controls their senses and acts sincerely. Krishna encouraged Arjuna to fulfill his responsibilities, as it is crucial for maintaining both personal well-being and the balance of the world. He emphasized that all actions should be performed as sacrifice to the Supreme Being, which helps avoid the bondage connected to self actions. Krishna explains that sacrifice or yajna connects all living beings. When people make sacrifice, the demigods provide for them. Not giving back after receiving aid is like stealing. This relationship is key to everyone working together harmoniously. Krishna also talk about self-realization. He says people who are satisfied with themselves do not have duties. However, they should still perform their role as good example for others to follow. He reminds Arjuna that Krishna himself, despite being self-sufficient, engage in actions to show the importance of duty. Krishna urges Arjuna to engage others in spiritual practice while completing their own duties. The wise should help guide others without stopping their work. Moreover, in 13.37, Krishna says, Kamesha Krodesha Rajoguna Samudbhava Manosh Mahashano Mahapapma Vidyayenam Varinam. Krishna urges Arjuna to he speaks about despite being explaining that lust drives people to sin. Lust can cloud people through consciousness, similar to how smokes hide the fire. Krishna advised Arjuna to control his desire through discipline, practice, and by using spiritual wisdom. He encourages Arjuna to surrender all his actions to him, acting without desire for personal gain. Those who accept this teaching without envy will free themselves from the burden of selfish action. In contrast, those who ignores this guidance risk remaining trapped in confusion. Krishna emphasized that it is always better to perform one's duty even if done imperfectly than to do someone else's duty perfectly. Each person should strive to engage in work that suits their nature. In chapter 3, Krishna teaches the value of karma yoga, which involves acting selflessly and responsibly. Krishna highlights that taking action aligned with one's duty is essential for spiritual growth and benefiting society. By managing desire and focusing on practice, individuals can achieve self realization while positively impacting the world. This chapter ultimately lays the groundwork for understanding how duty and spirituality interconnect on the journey to enlightenment. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
All right, super excellent presentation. Any questions, comments, realizations for Vimal Prabhu? All right, Vimal Prabhu is doing the presentation for the first time and he has done a super excellent presentation. You should have been doing presentations all along. Okay, so although Vimal Prabhu has done a very good job, in reality, I don't need to do the chapter 3 presentation. But since we agreed, so I will also briefly give a quick overview of chapter 3. So chapter 3 is titled Karma Yoga. Chapter 3 goes in circles. Arjuna is confused because of chapter 2, verse number 49, where Krishna has said, Durena hi avram karma, buddhi yoga dhananjaya. Krishna says, buddhi is superior to avram karma. Krishna is calling karma kanda as abominable compared to nishkam karma yoga, while Arjuna is thinking fighting war is abominable as compared to jnana. Arjuna equates buddhi with jnana, while Krishna is using the words buddhi yoga to be bhakti yoga. So question in Arjuna's mind is, first, that should I stay in the world and practice karma yoga, meaning to fight this war, or renounce the world and go to forest and practice Gyan yoga? That way, I don't have to fight this war. Confusion is because Arjuna knows that on the yoga ladder, karma yoga is intermediate and Gyan yoga is higher. Therefore, at the start of chapter 3, Arjuna asks, why are you asking me to fight this ghastly warfare if intelligence is better than fruitive work? Krishna gives 3 reasons that renunciation or inactivity is not to be done because, first, inactivity is not natural. Inactivity will not lead to purification. Inactivity will not lead to advancement. Second, mithyachar means pretender will disrupt social order because just by adopting external garb will mislead self and others. Third, one will not be able to maintain one's body. Work must be performed for satisfaction of Vishnu, otherwise work will cause bondage. At the start of chapter 5, Arjuna will ask the same question that he asked at the start of chapter 3. And in chapter 5, Krishna will respond that Gyan Yoga is higher than Karma Yoga, no doubt. But in practice, Karma Yoga is easier to perform than Gyan Yoga. As chapter 3 goes in circles, Arjuna may ask that what if I am not qualified for Karma Yoga? Krishna says, then do Karma Kanda, because Karma Kanda also involves performance of duties. And by doing your duties, you will be gradually purified. Krishna gives instructions by contrasting Karma Kanda and Karma Yoga. First, Krishna says, do yajna, then you will stay free from karmic bondage. Second, Krishna says that you satisfy demigods and demigods will satisfy you. Thus you will live happily and attain Shreyas. And third, Krishna says in 3.16 that if you don't follow these steps, then one will live in vain because Yajna and karma are born together. Yajna, karma, samudbhava. Yajna means our spiritual duties and karma means our material duties. Both are born together and we are required to do both duties. If you only do material duties of taking care of family, which is good, but then we are only doing our partial duties. So chapter 3, going in circles, continues. To avoid war, Arjuna would say that I am actually overqualified than Karma Yoga. I am actually qualified for Gyan Yoga. And Gyan Yoga is higher on the yoga ladder. Krishna responds that even if you are qualified for Gyan Yoga, still come down and perform Karma Yoga to set an example for the world. Set an accessible example for the world. Krishna is telling Arjuna that it is not that the activity causes bondage. Rather, it is one's mentality that causes bondage. If one is detached, then one will not be bound. And when one does his duty while being detached, then one sets a good example for others. Krishna compares Karma Kanda and Karma Yoga, that how Karma Kanda causes bondage and Karma Yoga does not cause bondage. Meaning, Krishna compares that those who are Vidwan and Asakta, learned and detached, they are Karma Yogi, there is no bondage from work. Against Avidwan and Sakta, ignorant and attached, these are Karma Kandiya, they get bondage from work. Hence Krishna says Arjuna should act with detachment to set an example for others to see and follow, to set an accessible example for others, so that others can practice spiritual life by following Arjuna. The chapter 3, circles, going in circles, continues. That another question may be that if one practices Gyan Yoga, the goal is liberation. So if I practice Karma Yoga, will I get liberation? Krishna says, understand that Karma Yoga and Karma Kanda differences he is explaining. That work does not cause bondage. It is attachment that causes bondage. Karma Kanda keeps one in the material existence because of attachment. And Karma Yoga elevates to liberation because one is detached. Krishna says results of Karma Yoga has to be offered to him because Krishna is the object of Karma Yoga. Therefore, dovetail your day-to-day work into Krishna consciousness and the result will be you will attain liberation. One should act according to their own nature. So Arjuna is a Kshatriya and trying to act like a sannyasi is not going to work. Lastly, one may want to do Karma Yoga, but what causes this entanglement? What drags away someone? Krishna responds that it is lust only, that is the force that causes entanglement. And Krishna explains how to be free from lust. Lust is born out of passion. Lust is the greatest and eternal enemy. Lust resides in senses, mind, and intelligence. So conquer lust by step number 1 is begin with intelligence, regulate your senses. But this regulation, this stopping will not be enough. Therefore, step number 2 is situate yourself on the spiritual platform simultaneously. By doing these two things, these two steps, one can control and conquer lust. This is how chapter 3 goes in circles. That starts with the practice of Karma Yoga, then goes down that if you are not qualified for Karma Yoga, then come down to practice Karma Kanda and act in the world. And if you are overqualified for Karma Yoga, yes, you are qualified for Gyan Yoga. still come down to practice karma yoga to set an example for others. Thus, chapter 3 leads to the conclusion that Arjuna should do his duty. Arjuna should practice karma yoga, meaning Arjuna should fight. Questions, comments, realizations?
Hare Krishna Prabhu,
Hare
I
Krishna.
have a question.
Mhm.
Just to the crux of the chapter, I think verses 3.30 and 3.31. So, as you had also said here, that if you're learned and detached in performing your work, there is no bondage. And that's said in 3.30. If one endeavors to do the work in Krishna consciousness without attachment to proprietorship or profit, one is freed. So even if one is aware of this, but is not able to fully execute it, are we still free from karma?
So, if you are not 100% detached, so your result will also be partial. Means, yes, you are in the progression of getting purified. It's possible you may get purified in one life. It may possible you may get purified in more than one lifetime. So depends on the degree of attachment, depends on the sincerity and determination of spiritual practice. That determines when and how you become pure. So if you are not 100% pure, so your result will be accordingly. So say you are 80% detached. Well, then your reciprocation with Krishna and Krishna reciprocating with you will be at 80% level to that of a pure devotee. So it's a progress. Generally, spiritual path is better to go in easier step-by-step progression rather than having to go up and down like a stock market. That one day it's a plus 100 and other day is minus 100. So gradual progression is appropriate. But the question that what happens if you are only partially detached? Well, then you are getting partial results. Nitya?
So Prabhu, thank you so much for clarifying that. So gradually we will be free of karma as we gradually progress on this path. Would that be right?
Yeah, you are correct.
And the karma yoga is at the threshold of bhakti yoga, because karma yoga is attachment to supreme. So working even in consciousness, in Krishna consciousness, is the beginning of bhakti yoga.
Yeah.
Right?
So Nishkam Karma Yoga is, you are right at the doorstep of Bhakti Yoga. Like you are still attached to working in the material world. You may not be attached to result at Nishkam Karma Yoga level, but your large focus is on spirituality. So Karma Yoga is interchangeably used in chapter 2 at least to refer to Bhakti Yoga and Buddhi Yoga. But it is Nishkam Karma Yoga that you are right at the doorstep of Bhakti Yoga. Karma Yoga can mean, if for Arjuna, if someone is like Arjuna, then Karma Yoga is actually Bhakti Yoga because Arjuna is doing his karma of fighting to serve Krishna. Or for others in the material world like me, I am doing normal karma. It's not yoga. I'm just executing my karma according to my karmic reactions. That on itself does not make it karma. It does not make it yoga. It's just karma for my own bodily needs. Yeah.
But Prabhu, you're dovetailing all your activities in Krishna consciousness, right? From the beginning of your day with your sadhana and through. So your work is the karma yoga, no?
So it's an attempt. Does not mean that I am successful in dovetailing. Yeah, it's a progress. It's a sadhana that I'm doing. But that on itself is not necessarily that I have become pure. Right? So it's a sadhana, it's a progression. That yes, I am trying to endeavor. That's all I'm doing.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Archana had a question.
Prabhuji, just follow-up question for Nitya Mataji, that in a karma yoga means doing worshipping the demigod, that come in a karma yoga, because in karma yoga, in this chapter, he said you have to worship to the Vishnu. He's not talking about any other demigod.
So demigod worship is at karma kanda level. Demigod worship is not worship of Vishnu.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So karma kanda is demigod worship, that you are wanting to live in the material world according to scriptural guidance, and you have material desires and you want demigods to satisfy your material desires. So that is karma kanda. But 3.30 onwards, as well as it says in 3.9 also, that work must be done for satisfaction of Vishnu. That is taking you at the karma yoga level, that you are not being attached to the results. You are just doing your work as sacrifice for the satisfaction of Vishnu. That is karma yoga. Archana?
Very good. So one realization, I don't know, just correct me if I'm right or wrong. So in this chapter, what I realize is our traveling to the spirituality is individual. And same thing we are learning in a Srimad Bhagavatam, that help is available on the ground. But once you board the plane, you are individual and you have to help yourself.
Yeah,
Is
very
that
good.
correct
Yeah.
realization?
Yeah, very good realization. So Archana is referring to 1.15.50, that when you are flying your airplane, no one, the other pilot cannot help you. Help is available on the ground. So prepare yourself. Very good. This is very good realization that yes, spirituality is individual. When we have to go back, we have to go back individually. We can do services here together. We can associate here together. And when we go back all, I'm hoping we all go back together to Goloka Vrindavan and continue to do services together in Goloka Vrindavan under Spiritual Master and Srimati Radharani. But yes, we have to individually reach there. Very good realization. Rest of you, any questions, comments, realizations? All right, so now we'll do the same for Bhagavad Gita chapter 4. So chapter 4 is on spiritual knowledge. Srila Prabhupada calls it transcendental knowledge. In Sanskrit, is titled Jnana Karma Sannyas Yoga. So chapter 3 is Karma Yoga. Chapter 5 is Karma Sannyas Yoga. And in between chapter 4 is Jnana Karma Sannyas Yoga, means the jnana that is given in chapter 4 is then explained in chapter 5 at the practice level of Karma Sannyas Yoga. That how do you do your karma so that it is equivalent to sannyas, that there is no reaction, no attachment. The theme of chapter 4 is centered around knowledge. And the most important verse in chapter 4 is verse number 38, that there is nothing as sublime as the transcendental knowledge, and one is delighted by such transcendental knowledge. The overview of section overview of chapter 4 is section 1 is verses 1 to 10. Krishna teaches and establishes dharma. Section 2 is verses 11 to 15. Krishna is the goal and creator of all paths. Section 3 is verses 16 to 24. Karma Yoga as the Dharma. Section 4 is verses 25 to 33. Achieving Jnana through sacrifices. And section 5 is verses 34 to 42. Glory of Divya Gyan. So chapter 4 has lot many points and lot many topics. And this attempt for revision is going to be a little longer as compared to other chapters. So let's read the verses. Nitya will read chapter 4 verses 1 to 10.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. 4.1 The personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna said, I instructed this imperishable science of yoga to the sun god Vivasvan, and Vivasvan instructed it to Manu, the father of mankind, and Manu in turn instructed it to Ikshvaku. 4.2 This superior science was thus received through the chain of reciprocal succession, and the ancient kings understood it in that way. But in course of time, the succession was lost, and therefore the science as it appears to be lost. 4.3 That very ancient science of the relationship with the Supreme is today told by me to you, because you are my devotee as well as my friend, and can therefore understand the transcendental mystery of this life. 4.4 The sun god Vivasvan is senior by birth to you. How am I to understand that this is that in the beginning you instructed this science to me? 4.5 The personality of Godhead said, many, many births both you and I have had. I can remember all of them, but you cannot. O subduer of the enemy. Text 4.6 Although I am unborn and my transcendental body never deteriorates, and although I am the Lord of all living entities, by my internal energy, I still appear in every millennium in my original transcendental form. 4.7 Whenever and wherever there is a decline in religious practice or descendant of Bharata and a predominant rise of irreligion, at that time I defend myself. 4.8 To deliver the pious and to annihilate the miscreants, as well to re-establish the principles of religion, I myself appear millennium after millennium. 4.9 One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activity does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal code, O Arjuna. Text 4.10 Being freed from attachment, fear, and anger, being fully absorbed in me and taking refuge in me, many persons in the past became purified by knowledge of me, and thus they all attain transcendental love for me.
Pragya will read 11 to 15, and the title is Krishna is the goal and creator of all paths.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Chapter 4, verses 11 to 15. Text 11. As all surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects, O son of Pratha. Text 12. Men in this world desire success in fruitive activities, and therefore they worship the demigods. Quickly, of course, men get results from fruitive work in this world. Text 13. According to the three modes of material nature and work associated with them, the four divisions of human society are created by me. And although I am the creator of this system, you should know that I am yet the non-doer, being unchangeable. Text 14. There is no work that affects me, nor do I aspire the fruits of action. One who understands this truth about me also does not become entangled in fruitive reactions of work. Text 15. All the liberated souls in ancient times acted with this understanding of my transcendental nature. Therefore, you should perform your duty following their footsteps. Hare Krishna.
Shivangi will read section 3, verses 16 to 24. title is Karma Yoga as the Dharma. Shivangi, unmute.
Hare Krishna. Text 16. Even the intelligent are bewildered in determining what is action and what is inaction. Now I shall explain to you what action is, knowing which you shall be liberated from all misfortune. The intricacies of action are very hard to understand. Therefore, one should know properly what action is, what forbidden action is, and what inaction is. One who sees inaction in action and action in inaction is intelligent among men, and he is in the transcendental position, although engaged in all sorts of activities. One who is understood to be in full knowledge, whose very endeavor is devoid of desire for sense gratification. He is said by sages to be a worker for whom the reactions of work have been burned up by the fire of perfect knowledge. Text 20. Abandoning all attachment to the results of his activities, ever satisfied and independent, he performs no fruitive action, although engaged in all kinds of undertakings. Such a man of understanding acts with mind and intelligence perfectly controlled, gives up all sense of proprietorship over his possessions, and acts only for the bare necessities of life. Thus working, he is not affected by sinful reactions. He who is satisfied with gain, which comes of its own accord, who is free from duality and does not envy, who is steady in both success and failure, is never entangled, although performing actions. The work of a man who is unattached to the modes of material nature and who is fully situated in transcendental knowledge merges entirely into transcendence. Text 24. A person who is fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness is sure to attain the spiritual kingdom because of his full contribution to spiritual activities in which the consummation is absolute and that which is offered is of the same spiritual nature. Hare Krishna.
Madan Prabhu will read 25 to 33, which is section 4, and the title is Achieving Jnana Through Sacrifices.
Some yogis perfectly worship the demigods by offering different sacrifices to them, and some offer sacrifices in the fire of the Supreme Brahman. Text 26. Some, the unadulterated brahmacharis, sacrifice the hearing process and the senses in the fire of mental control, and others, the regulated householders, sacrifice the object of the senses in the fire of the senses. Text 27. Others who are interested in achieving self-realization through control of the mind and senses offer the functions of all the senses and of the life breath as oblation into the fire of controlled mind. Text 28. Having accepted strict vow, some become enlightened by sacrificing their possessions, and others by performing severe austerities, by practicing the yoga of eightfold mysticism, or by studying the Vedas to advance in transcendental knowledge. Text 29. Still others who are inclined to the process of breath restraint to remain in trance, practice by offering the movement of the outgoing breath into the incoming and incoming breath into the outgoing, and thus at last remain in trance, stopping all breathing. Others, curtailing the eating process, offer the outgoing breath into itself as a sacrifice. Text 30. All these performers who know the meaning of sacrifice become cleansed of sinful reactions, and having tasted the nectar of the results of sacrifice, they advance toward the supreme eternal atmosphere. Text 31. O best of the Kuru dynasty, without the sacrifice, one can never live happily on this planet or in this life. What then of the next? Text 32. All these different types of sacrifices are approved by the Vedas, and all of them are born of different types of work. Knowing them as such, you will become liberated. Text 33. O chastiser of the enemy, the sacrifice performed in the knowledge is better than the mere sacrifice of material possessions. After all, O son of Partha, all sacrifices of work culminate in transcendental knowledge.
So Vimal Prabhu will read section 5, verses 34 to 42. Title is Glory of Divya Gyan.
Try to learn the truth by approaching the spiritual master, inquiring from him submissively, and render services unto him. The self-realized soul can impart knowledge unto you because they have seen the truth. Text 35. Having obtained real knowledge from the self-realized soul, you will never fall again into such illusions. For by this knowledge you will see that all living beings are but part of the Supreme, or in other words, they are mine. Text 36. Even if you are considered to be the most sinful of all sinners, when you are situated in the boat of transcendental knowledge, you will be able to cross over the ocean of misery. Text 37. As blazing fire turns firewood to ashes, O Arjuna, so does the fire of knowledge burns to ashes all reactions of material activities. Text 38. In this world there is nothing so sublime and pure as transcendental knowledge. Such knowledge is the mature fruit of all mysticism, and one who has become accomplished in the practice of devotional service enjoy this knowledge within himself in due course of time. Text 39. A faithful man who is detached to transcendental knowledge and who subdue his senses is eligible to achieve such knowledge, and having achieved it, he quickly attained the supreme spiritual peace. Text 40. But ignorant and faithless person who doubt the revealed spirituals do not attain God consciousness. They fall down. For the doubting soul, there is happiness neither in this world nor in the next. Hare Krishna.
Two more verses are there.
Two more. Okay. Text 41. One who acts in devotional service renounced the fruit of this action, and whose doubt have been destroyed by transcendental knowledge is situated factually in the self. Thus, he is not bound by the reaction of work or conquer of riches. Therefore, the doubt which have arisen in your heart out of ignorance should be slashed by the weapon of knowledge. Armed with yoga, O Bharata, stand and fight. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Very good. So Abhishek Prabhu is going to do the presentation, and Abhishek Prabhu could not virtually attend, so he has recorded his presentation. And this is spectacular, that if we are not able to virtually attend, Krishna's service needs to continue. So you just record, you use the technology in Krishna's service. So any one of you at some point on your presentation day, for whatever reason, if you are not able to attend, follow the same process, that just do the recording and I can play. So I'll play Abhishek Prabhu's recording right now.
Hare Krishna. Seeking permission from all devotees, Srila Prabhupada and Shri Shri Radha Krishna to be able to speak on chapter 4 of Bhagavad Gita. This chapter is called Transcendental Knowledge or Jnana Yoga. It has 5 sections. The first section describes Krishna's teachings and establishment of dharma, how Krishna does it, and relation to chapter 3. And these form the first 10 verses of the chapter. So, in the beginning, Lord Krishna explains that this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita and Krishna consciousness is eternal. And for this, he describes the parampara system, that this knowledge was first given to sun god Vivaswan. From Vivaswan it came to Manu, from Manu to his son Ikshvaku, and from Ikshvaku to other Raj Rishis, king in the lineage. So such Raj Rishis were both internally and externally self-controlled and qualified, and thus they were the right person to receive this knowledge. And here also Krishna mentions that because Arjuna is a friend and a devotee, he is a perfect candidate to receive this knowledge. So he described that what is the qualification for us also to receive this transcendental knowledge. Then, so this was the first 3 verses. Next 3 verses in this section describe Krishna's body and his appearances. So Arjuna asked that how can Krishna be how can Krishna be present when Sun God was there to give this knowledge? Because Sun God is senior to God to Krishna. But here Arjuna also shows that how should we ask questions. So he shows that the question should be asked in a humble way. So Lord Krishna describes that we may take many births, but we forget. But Lord Krishna, because he never changes his body, he never forgets. And he comes or he appears to deliver his devotee, to annihilate the miscreants and to establish the principles of dharma. Then the last 2 verses in this section describe the benefit of understanding all this, that those who factually understand this knowledge about Lord Krishna, they are liberated from the cycle of birth and death, and they go to the spiritual world. Next section, verses 11 to 15, describes that Krishna is the goal and creator of all spiritual paths, and all paths. So here it is described that everyone is looking for Krishna in some form or other. So either people are attracted to Krishna or his energy. So there is a direct path of bhakti yoga, and there are many indirect paths like demigod worship for purification, but these are slower paths, and ultimately everyone has to come to the path of Krishna bhakti. On demigod worship, it is described that the results could be quick, but it is like a business contract, and the results are always dependent only on our karmic credit. There is no result given outside the karmic credit. Now, another path which is utilized by devotees is the varnashram system. So, varnashram system is created by Lord to facilitate gradual progress in Krishna consciousness, because spiritual progress anyways is an individual struggle, and it becomes easier, the struggle becomes easier when it is supported by a social structure. So Varnashram provides that social structure. So Lord Krishna mentions that he has created this path, but he is not the doer. Neither he is responsible for the actions and reactions of people. Like anyone does not get whimsically in any form or body in any of the particular varnas or ashram. This is based on our own past karma and guna. So Lord Krishna this system is reciprocal to our past life actions. Thus, in conclusion, Krishna created the division, but the choice of body is based on our own activities. So some analogies and examples are given that the proprietor of an establishment is not responsible for the right and wrong activities of the workers, but the workers are themselves responsible. Similarly, the rains are not responsible for different types of vegetation that appear on the earth, although without such rains, there is no possibility of vegetative growth. So, without Lord Krishna, there is no possibility. But he is not responsible for our actions. It is also explained that people may know about God, but hardly anyone knows about God. So the theoretical knowledge is not enough. Theoretical knowledge stays in the head. Real transcendental knowledge is transformative. Transformation changes our directions in life. So those who understand Lord Krishna in real sense become liberated from the cycle of birth and death. And at the end of this section, Lord Krishna describes that this is a time-tested process. People in the past have achieved progress, achieved success following this path, and so we can also. Next section from verses 16 to 24 describes Karma Yoga as the dharma recommended by Krishna. So this section describes that understanding the intricacies of karma for us is not possible. Ways of religion can't be understood by imperfect experimentation. So we should understand action, inaction, and forbidden action to carry out our activities. So karma in general is of three types: action with good reactions prescribed by scripture. So actions which are prescribed by scripture, which is also sometimes called as karma. Then there is vikarma, or which is forbidden action which bring bad reactions and against scripture. And then there is akarma, action which brings no reaction. So Vedic culture is duty centered and it is not destiny centered. So the reactions which we get is based on our own action. So Lord Krishna is not responsible or hateful for anyone to give any particular reaction. Now, on a practical point, we should apply this law of karma harshly on ourselves, especially when something bad happens to us. But for others, we should not bring this point. We should focus on our dharma, we should focus on our karma, and we should try to help them, not bombard them with philosophy. In our discussions, we discussed 4 meanings of karma and 2 meanings of akarma. So in general, action of any kind is sometimes called karma. Reaction to the work performed is also called karma. The system of action and reaction is also called karma. And then in the karma, vikarma, and akarma, 3 forms of karma, one is also one definition of karma. So Lord Krishna here describes about action in inaction and inaction in action. So here the description in this chapter of action in inaction is about reactions to the work performed. So there may be people who may be seemingly inactive, but mentally they may be active, and so there is action performed and reaction will come. 2 meanings of akarma is one is the literal meaning, which is no action, and the other is the action which doesn't produce any reaction, which is the real akarma. Instead of renouncing activity, Lord Krishna stresses to renounce the enjoying mentality in the activity. So acting for Krishna bears no reaction, not acting externally but internally hankering for fruits bears negative reaction. So this was brief on action, inaction, and forbidden action. Next, Lord Krishna describes in this section how a Nishkam Karma Yogi acts. So it is described that it is not action which causes bondage, but the attachment to the fruits of action which causes bondage. So Karma Yogi is detached from material world, unattached to Krishna. Such a person doesn't work for lower motivations like enjoying the fruits of work. They work for minimum body maintenance. They work for the principle of yajna. Now the principle of yajna is described. The yajna means to act for the satisfaction of Krishna. It just does not mean the fire sacrifice. It's a much broader concept. Whether something is spiritual or material depends on what is it used for. Anything used for Krishna's service is spiritual, otherwise it is material. So Srila Prabhupada says that matter dovetailed for the cause of absolute truth regains its spiritual identity. So sacrifice done for Lord Krishna becomes an yajna. Now the section 4 from verses 25 to 33 describes achieving jnana through sacrifices. So various forms of yajnas one can perform is described, and some of them are also for previous yugas. Purpose of yajna is purification and liberation, and there are some recommendations made for Arjuna. Principle of sacrifice is that what can be used for my pleasure is used for Krishna's pleasure, and whatever comes out of this action we get as prasad. Regulating what otherwise can be used without restraint is a general principle of sacrifice. And also not all yajnas lead to the same degree of purification. Same speed of results is not there. Some degree of or same degree of liberation is not there because each yajna has different levels of sacrifice. Those who go out to enjoy for themselves live very superficially. Their heart is empty, their happiness is shallow, and they are not peaceful. So we must act for yajna. And the highest yajna described for this Kali-yuga is Sankirtan Yoga. The final section from verses 34 to 42 describe the glories of Divya Gyan. And this section also begins with the spiritual master work, which is very important and practical for us. Spiritual masters are the real seers of truth. The process of acquiring Divya Gyan from them is described that it requires humility or humbleness to admit that I don't know the way of spiritual path and the spiritual master knows, so he can guide us. The seeker should be inquisitive and he should inquire what he is not able to understand. There should not be blind faith in the name of humility. By inquiring, we develop Jnana Chakshu and our capacity to see spiritual truth and about the fake promises of this material world. We start seeing what spiritual master is seeing, and then in the end, the third point is service, to apply what we have learned. The secret to advancement is the satisfaction of spiritual master. It is also described that Lord Krishna's grace works in 3 steps. Humility enables spiritual master to show us the way. Inquisitiveness enables us to see the way ourselves, to internalize what spiritual master is telling us. And service is the application of what we are learning so that we move forward in this way. Bhakti is the easier path among various spiritual paths, but essentially all spiritual paths are difficult because we have to fight our inner demons. And Bhakti is the only path that grants highest liberation. So it is the topmost yoga. Spiritual master tests the disciple and we must show our genuineness. Spiritual master is not an obstruction between us and Krishna, rather, he removes all obstacles between us and Krishna. So the disciple must be submissive and always ready to render service. Spiritual master does not come in the way of us and God. He removes all obstacles, all misconceptions of God, our false ego, and misconceived desires. Spiritual master connects us to Krishna. Without spiritual master, we cannot know what is bhakti, so spiritual master is essential. Next few verses describe what is the result of this knowledge from spiritual master. 2 results are described. Freedom from illusion. This knowledge is so powerful that even a sinful person is elevated by the mercy of spiritual master. And the second is we start seeing all living entities in Krishna or his parts and parcels. So this is the spiritual vision, seeing everything in relation to Lord Krishna. So analogy of a boat is given, and the boat is a transcendental knowledge which can help us cross the material ocean. And for us, Srila Prabhupada has brought this boat of Krishna consciousness, and we have to just stay in this boat to survive this ocean. The crux of the discussion is described in verse 38, which says that nothing is as sublime as this transcendental knowledge. This transcendental knowledge is the knowledge of Atma, soul, and its relation to the super soul, or that we are soul and eternal servitor of Lord Krishna. Then in the end, we have discussion on faith. There are 3 requirements for getting this transcendental knowledge. Faithful men acquire this knowledge. They should be dedicated and devoted to this knowledge, and they should be regulated in their senses. In subsequent discussion, we learn about 4 types of understandings. One understanding, like when we read something or hear something, there are things which we can immediately understand and accept. There are things which we understand after deliberation and discussion. Then there are things which we understand after a long practice and purification. And finally, there are things which is not possible for us to understand. So we have to put our inquiries in these 4 sections so that we can move forward in our spiritual life and that do not get stuck. The last 2 verses in Lord Krishna described that Arjuna should act in knowledge and fight in knowledge. So Karma Yoga doesn't stop activity but the suited mentality. Now this also paves the path for the next chapter because Arjuna gets confused here about sannyas word use. and the word yoga used. Sannyas term means to give up the fruitive activity, not the karma itself. So Lord Krishna is talking up to get rid of the fruitive mentality in activity, not the activity themselves. But Arjuna gets confused on renunciation and fighting. In the end, to conclude, this transcendental knowledge is the knowledge of about the Lord and our relationship with Him. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to present this chapter. If there is any mistake, please help me.
Any questions, comments, realizations for Abhishek Prabhu? All right. Abhishek Prabhu anyway has done a very excellent job of this presentation. In theory, I don't need to present chapter 4, but I will do a quick summary of chapter 4 as well. Chapter 4 is titled Transcendental Knowledge. Theme of chapter 4 is centered around knowledge. Chapter 4 has many topics discussed, and first, what is the connection with chapter 3, Karma Yoga, to chapter 4, Transcendental Knowledge? At the end of chapter 3, Krishna is talking about how lust covers the intelligence and mind. How lust has to be conquered by regulating the senses and situate on spiritual platform. So kings are meant to protect citizens from bondage to lust. So Krishna says at the start of chapter 4, Krishna gives this knowledge to kings because kings are supposed to influence the society spiritually through their policies. Krishna is saying the standard way to receive this knowledge is through parampara. And then Krishna describes that Krishna descends in his transcendental body in this material world. Lord does not change body. Therefore, there is no loss of memory for the Lord. We forget because of death and rebirth, and change of bodies act as memory wipers. Then the question is, why does the Lord come to the material world? When there is decline in religious principles, then he comes to re-establish dharma, to protect devotees and annihilate demons. The primary purpose for Lord's descent to material world is to appease his unalloyed devotees who are always harassed by demoniac people. An incidental byproduct is that the Lord will also kill the demons. Krishna says, one who understands in truth that my birth and activities are divya, transcendental, they will come back to me, Krishna, when they give up their body and they do not come back to this miserable material world again. Obstacles in understanding him in truth are, first is attachment, second is fear, and third is anger arising from frustration. Krishna recommends to take shelter of him and perform bhakti yoga. This way one will go back to him. But not everyone wants to practice bhakti yoga. Therefore, there are other processes also. Therefore, in section 2 of this chapter 4, Krishna describes these other practices, these other paths. That why do people worship demigods instead of Krishna? Because people want quick results. Demigod worship is like a business contract. People worship demigods in the mood of business, that they are doing the rituals not primarily for spiritual advancement, but getting their material desires fulfilled. Then the question becomes that how will these demigod worshippers get elevated? Therefore, Krishna says that Krishna has created the Varnashram system. Varnashram system provides a social structure for spiritual advancement. Varnashram is based on guna and karma. With varnashram social structure, then the individual struggle becomes lesser. Krishna says that this Krishna consciousness is time-tested eternal process. Krishna consciousness has purified and liberated many in the past. After answering Arjuna's questions from the end of chapter 3 and questions from the start of chapter 4, Krishna then continues Karma Yoga discussion, that Karma Yoga is the dharma. How karma works? Krishna says that even the wise get bewildered and they do not know what is karma and what is akarma. But if you understand, you will become free from bondage. Krishna says, which action will result in which reaction is very complex to understand. But essentially, you understand three things. What is karma, what is vikarma, and what is akarma. Karma means actions which bring good reactions and actions prescribed by scriptures. Vikarma means actions that bring bad reactions, actions which are against scriptures. Akarma means akarma is not inaction. Rather, akarma is action that brings no reaction. Example to understand karma, or how one cannot understand karma, that if all of us do an exact same karma right now at the same time, which has the exact same reaction, either good or bad, for one of us, this reaction can materialize now. For second, this reaction can materialize in next life. And for third, this reaction can materialize few lives down the line. This point, that when the reaction will manifest, plus that one-on-one link of which karma leads to which reaction, Krishna says no one can know. Only Krishna in the entire existence knows about this, of how karma works. Therefore, we don't need to worry about this. Krishna says, don't worry about trying to find this out, because it is only Krishna who knows. And our brains are not built with this capacity to understand. Therefore, as we have discussed, instead of focusing on karma, focus on what is my dharma. Focus on akarma. Performing pure devotional service fries up all current and past good as well as bad karma. Now, karma can have four meanings. First is action of any kind, meaning any work that we do. Second is reaction to the work performed. Third is the system of action and reaction. And fourth is karma can refer to one of the three karmas of karma, vikarma, and akarma. And akarma can have two meanings, inaction, and the second is action that produces no reaction. With this understanding of karma and akarma, Krishna explains, to see in doing external activity, there is no karmic reaction. Means to see inaction in action. Inaction or akarma here is not inactivity, but inaction or akarma means no karmic reaction. Example, Arjuna's fighting will lead to no karmic reaction because Arjuna is acting on behalf of Krishna. And the other path is that to see action in inaction means to see that there is reaction even when there is no external activity. So this is mithyachar, that one who has externally given up activity is acting like a meditator, but internally meditating on sense enjoyment. Such a person is getting into karmic bondage because of internal contemplation, because fruitive activity at the mental level will lead to action at material level, leading to bondage. After explaining the principle of action in inaction and inaction in action, then Krishna explains how to practice this karma yoga. because Karma Yoga culminates into Bhakti Yoga, because Karma Yoga will free one from bondage, meaning how Karma Yogi should act. Karma Yogi actions are devoid of sense gratification, meaning he sacrifices selfish motivation. So don't renounce action, rather renounce selfishness. Act with detachment. Do not give up karma, rather give up attachment. Karma Yogi has no possessive mentality, is non-envious, because anything material cannot make me happy. Working as a Karma Yogi, work will become yajna, work will become Bhakti Yoga, therefore there is no reaction. Yajna means selfless service. If you are acting in principle of sacrifice for the pleasure of Vishnu, then even battlefield can be a yajna. Krishna explains various ways one can perform yajna. So understand that the yajna for Kali Yuga is Sankirtan yajna. The result of yajna is purification. Second is enjoy fruits of yajna in this world. And third is attain liberation. Without yajna, one cannot be happy. One gets this jnana from spiritual master by three things. First is humbleness. Second is inquisitiveness. And third is service-mindedness. Spiritual master is enabling us to turn towards Krishna by his own example and through his connection with Krishna. So spiritual master therefore should be in parampara, parampara that is connected all the way to Krishna. The two results of acquiring knowledge from spiritual master are, one is freedom from illusion, and second, he sees all living beings in Krishna and as Krishna's parts and parcel. Just as wood burned to ashes by fire, similarly the fire of knowledge burns all karma. What is this knowledge? The knowledge of Atma and the connection of the Atma with the Paramatma. There is nothing as purer as this transcendental knowledge, and this will enable one to relish happiness within. Those with faith acquire this knowledge, plus there are two other requirements. One is one has to be dedicated and devoted and attached to this knowledge. And second, one has to regulate one's senses. Once one gets jnana, shanti comes soon. Meaning once one is situated on the spiritual platform, peace will quickly follow. Now, faith alone is not enough. If you have faith in God, that should be reflected in our actions. One who is ignorant, faithless, and doubtful, such a person will fall away. Meaning the spiritual prospects will be destroyed, and he won't be happy in this world nor in the next. Our faith will get checked and choked if we start questioning everything from scriptures. Therefore, park your questions till they get clarified as one gets more and more purified. Continue doing Krishna conscious activities while you have parked your questions. We are all born with certain degree of faith. We can increase Krishna consciousness faith by increasing Krishna conscious activities such as devotee association, reading Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, etc. Krishna concludes that Arjuna should act in jnana, that Arjuna should do his duty of fighting in jnana, and doubts born of ignorance in your heart should be cut with the sword of knowledge. So Krishna is referring to spiritual knowledge he has talked about in this chapter 4. Meaning, understand that I am soul and I am not this body. Plus, understand that acts done with detachment does not cause bondage, rather leads to purification and liberation. At the end of chapter 4, Arjuna is confused because Krishna has not referred to fighting even once in the whole chapter 4 except the last verse number 42. Plus, Krishna has said Shanti in 4.39 and Sannyas Karma in 4.41, and one can take the literal meaning of Sannyas Karma as if to give up karma instead of what Krishna is trying to say of giving up fruitive karma. Therefore, at the start of chapter 5, Arjuna will repeat the same question that he asked at the start of chapter 3. His questions being, do I fight or do I not fight? That's a little longer summary of chapter 4. Questions, comments, realizations?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, may I ask a question?
Yeah.
With the discipline subsection, which is mentioned at the end of preface, which also talks about Bhagavad Gita, the last verse, there is no mention of sun god to Manu to instruct. Is there a reason?
You mean in the disciplic succession?
Yes, Prabhu is on page 30.
Yeah. So the disciplic succession in the Bhagavad Gita is explaining what we can see and we can access. I mean, sun god is there, but we cannot access, right? I mean, although Brahmaji is also there, Brahmaji, but it's very difficult to access. So besides all these, in the parampara, Krishna has has explained Bhagavad Gita to few others also. So we just follow what is accessible. So the purpose of parampara is not to mention the every single individual. Rather, it is trying to show that how the parampara is connected to Krishna. That's the purpose of showing the parampara with milestones in between.
Thank you, Prabhu. Prabhu, there was a mention in one of the purports of it was at the beginning of the Treta Yuga that Lord Krishna spoke to Sun God. So this all goes to all the way back to the beginning, right? Before anything started, before creation started. The Lord created, and then we have him instructing this knowledge as he created more. For me, the timeline was just hard to follow because it mentioned that in every millennium, then it mentioned Treta Yuga. So it would just go back to all the way to the beginning, right? And then
so we have discussed this, that Krishna himself has spoken Bhagavad Gita for more than 36,700 times. How do I get this number of 36,700 times? So if you do the math, that Brahmaji right now is 51 years of age. In every day of Brahmaji, Krishna appears once. And when he appears once, he speaks Bhagavad Gita 2 times. One time to Arjuna and one time to sun god. And Brahmaji's 1 year is 360 days. So if you do the math of 51 times 2 times 360, you will get a number of 36,720. That's the number of time, that many number of times Krishna has spoken Bhagavad Gita. So sun god also he has spoken again and again and again. Every time Krishna comes in 1 day of Brahmaji. So it's not only at the start. Yes, sun was created at the start as part of creation, which is described in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, some part of Canto 2 also. But the sun god, means the deity, is hearing it multiple times, not just one time at the time of creation. Nitya?
Yes, Prabhu, thanks for clarifying. So this was the instructions happened many, many times. Thank you for clarifying.
Correct. Rest of you?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
I have a question.
Mhm.
So here also it's talk about the spiritual journey is individual. So my question is, if someone in your family do not believe in Krishna consciousness, and if I want to do a japa for that individual person, that japa help him for to come in the spirituality, Prabhuji?
Yes, you are correct. So give them prasad.
No, the person is not living with me, so there is no way I can give prasadam and all.
Yeah, so do japa and pray to Krishna for them.
Okay. What are the steps I have to say before I have to means I have to that particular japa is for him. So do I have to follow any steps? So
You
just
can,
take his and then
when you do worship, say when you offer obeisances, you can in your request. So we have learned how to request. In your request, you that should be your request, that please do something to get this individual on the path of spirituality. And I'm also doing japa every day to elevate this individual. So you're doing worship every day, right? And you can start with this request. So that becomes your overarching spiritual request, because you are trying to get a soul closer to Krishna. Yes, it's your relative, but still it is at the soul level and it's a spiritual desire. So have that overarching spiritual desire early in the morning when you connect with Krishna, and then whatever japa you do automatically goes or is meant for that's trying to fulfill that same spiritual desire.
Yeah, that's all, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Very good. Rest of you? So I want everyone to take a step back and think. We have Ramya here. So Ramya, many of you would remember, I was there in earlier classes. Then Ramya joined the Bhakti Shastri course from Mayapur Institute. And she just completed Bhakti Shastri course. And now she is back in classes. So this is perfect. All of you should follow exactly what Ramya did. And Ramya can share that how our study prepared her very nicely. So when I did my own Bhakti Shastri course, I did not study at all before going to the classes, and it was very difficult for me. I was the only individual in the classes who had not studied any of the scriptures. The rest, everybody was, some of them were initiated, first and second initiated, some of them had studied scriptures, and it was very difficult for me. And Ramya can share her experience that how our classes made it easier for her to complete Bhakti Shastri, although these Bhakti Shastri courses and Bhagavatam courses, they are pretty intense courses. So you all should take responsibility and ownership of this philosophy. We discussed in this chapter 4 that if you have faith, it should get reflected in your actions, and you should be devoted, dedicated, and attached to this knowledge. So you should take ownership of this knowledge and do your Bhakti Shastri course also. Get that designation. And you will realize that although we are all studying with great intensity, when you actually write the exam, you will feel a little additional benefit. I will let Ramya explain her experience.
Hare Krishna, totally agree, absolutely agree. I started off Bhakti Fixer classes with you a couple of years ago, and I went back in circles, and getting into the Bhakti Shastri course actually brought two things out to my experience, that your classes are amazing, and it provides us the base, the background of how to connect between the different texts, and the amazing way in which you connect the different scriptures. That was I realized how important your classes were. In the Bhakti Shastri class, I understood the importance of studying scriptures seriously. And when you are actually focusing on exams and memorizing shlokas for the intent of shloka tests and all, we realize that we are imbibing more knowledge. So absolutely, being part of the Bhakti Shastri class was an eye-opener as well. So I highly recommend anyone who is interested in learning seriously to take up the Bhakti Shastri course itself and advance their knowledge. Hare Krishna.
All glories are always for Guru Maharaj, and all glories are always for Srila Prabhupada. All glories
All
are
glories.
always for your
All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Sri Sri Radha Krishna, and all glories to you who helped me get started on this path.
I have nothing to do. It's all your endeavor. For the next part about Ramya, I would request Ramya to stay silent. So I have explained this example many times without naming Ramya. So Ramya is the example of following the samskar. So I explained that I have always said that one of the devotee from our class used to read Bhagavad Gita and Krishna book and listen to Bhagavatam lectures while the devotee was pregnant. That is Ramya. And Ramya, while she was about to deliver, in the hospital, she was hearing Srimad Bhagavatam class from my spiritual master, His Grace Vaisheshika Das Adhikari. And you can see the live result that Ramya's son, even from a young age, is engaged in Krishna conscious activities. So Ramya has moved from Toronto to closer to Niagara Falls, and the ISKCON in that area around Niagara Falls. So this is the result. This is a live result, live example that you can see that yes, the proper process is to follow Garbhadan Samskar from the start before even conceiving the child. But if you are partway through, then reading scriptures every day. Ramya read almost every day, most of the time, and up to the time of delivering the child. And Ramya has also named the child as Keshav, giving the spiritual name as well. Very good. Questions, comments, realizations? All right. So next week, everybody should come prepared with chapters 5 and 6. Abhishek Prabhu is going to present chapter 5 and Divya is going to present chapter 6, but everybody should come prepared. And there is a spot open for chapter 10. Ramya can consider, or anybody interested can consider to present chapter 10. You don't have to answer now, but Ramya can decide and consider, or whosoever else wants to present.
Hare Krishna, I'll take them.
All right. I will put your name right now. Very good. Thank you. All right. So we have little over 5 minutes left. I do have to answer the questions that you had submitted from the last Srimad Bhagavatam class. I won't be able to finish. There are about 8 questions. I won't be able to finish all of them. So one option is I can answer few questions today and the rest in the subsequent class, or you can use the time to inquire whatever you have. What would you prefer?
Therefore, you can answer some of the questions, Prabhu.
All right. So let me bring up on screen. So these are from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, that the devotees just completed, and after every class, they submit tracking points and inquiries. So question number 1 is, are there times when pure devotees with Lord's mercy able to remember their actions in past lives that led to their sufferings? So we have discussed this in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, chapters 5 and 6. Srila Narad Muni's example, that how Srila Narad Muni remembered his past life of a 5-year-old boy, even when that past life was in a previous millennium. So by the time of becoming a pure devotee, sufferings don't matter for a pure devotee. Therefore, pure devotees use anything and everything, including miseries, to remember Krishna. Hence, the discussion in scriptures is how to remember Krishna 24 hours rather than what all I did in my previous life, although they will remember. Does that answer the inquiry?
Yes,
Thank you. Question number 2. Does presence of gold with us signify presence of Kali, such as falsity, intoxication, lust, envy, and enmity? We have collected gold from inheritance and personal acquisition. It is considered a safe asset for meeting emergencies in Indian home. Also, there are temples where deities are adorned in gold. In temples like Tirupati, gold is offered by devotees to Lord Vishnu's Balaji form. Is that inauspicious? So this is the discussion from Canto 1, chapter 17, I think, where Parikshit Maharaj allowed Kali to stay where there is gold. So Krishna is not affected by material imperfections. And actually, everything material, including gold, should be used in Krishna's service. Whether you have your opulences in cash or in gold, it is identical that you have opulences. Now, this reference to gold is specifically about excess collection of funds, whether it is in cash or in gold. That's when Kali Yuga impacts. Srila Prabhupada explains this as gold prostitution or the prostitution of economy in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.17.39. So we will read this 1.17.39 and understand what exactly is Srila Prabhupada explaining about gold. It basically is not the normal gold that we have. It's excess. So let me bring up on screen. Everybody has read. Malti, would you like to read from the screen 1.7.39 translation and purport? So all of you can also explain if the a dark color mode is easier to read, or should I change to lighter color mode?
I think it's better, Prabhu. This one is better.
This one is okay?
Yes.
Rest of you?
Prabhu, lighter.
Lighter, yes, good.
Okay, let me change it. Okay, this is better?
Yeah, this is also good.
Okay, Malti, go ahead. So read 11739 translation and purport about the inquiry of gold.
The personality of Kali asked for something more, and because of his begging, and the king gave him a permission to live where there is gold, because wherever there is gold, there is also falsity, intoxication, lust, envy, and enemy. Purport. Although Maharaja Pariksit gave Kali permission to live in 4 places, it was very difficult for him to find the places, because during the reign of Maharaja Pariksit,
Malti, your voice is breaking. Malti, will let Dhara read. Your voice is breaking. Dhara, purport.
Hare Krishna. Purport. Although Maharaj Parikshit gave Kali permission to live in 4 places, it was very difficult for him to find the places, because during the reign of Maharaj Parikshit, there were no such places. Therefore, Kali asked the king to give him something practical which could be utilized for his nefarious purposes. Maharaj Parikshit thus gave him permission to live in a place where there is gold, because wherever there is gold, there are all the above mentioned 4 things, and over and above them, there is enmity also. So the personality of Kali became gold standardized. According to Srimad Bhagavatam, gold encourages falsity, intoxication, prostitution, envy, and enmity. Even a gold standard exchange and currency is bad. Gold standard currency is based on falsehood, because the currency is not on a par with the reserved gold. The basic principle is falsity, because currency notes are issued in value beyond that of the actual reserved gold. This artificial inflation of currency by the authorities encourages prostitution of the state economy. The price of commodities becomes artificially inflated because of bad money or artificial currency notes. Bad money drives away good money. Instead of paper currency, actual gold coins should be used for exchange, and this will stop prostitution of gold. Gold ornaments for women may be allowed by control, not by quality, but by quantity. This will discourage lust, envy, and enmity. When there is actual gold currency in the form of coins, the influence of gold is producing falsity, prostitution, etc. will automatically cease. There will be no need of an anti-corruption ministry for another term of prostitution and falsity of purpose. Hare Krishna.
So it says here, Prabhupada says, gold ornaments for women is allowed based on a little bit of quantity. Does that answer the inquiry? All right, we are just past 9 o'clock here in Toronto time. Rest of the questions I will answer in subsequent classes. We will stop here. Hare Krishna, everybody.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.